Hello, my name is Samantha Pahls, and I'm a student at UAMS in the College of Public Health. Today I'm going to be talking to the Little Rock Community Group about the West Virginia water crisis. We are going to talk about what happened to this crisis, how it affected the residents, and why we should or should not be concerned about something similar happening in our community in Arkansas. Let's take an overview look of what we are going to be talking about today. Today I will be informing you about how the water was contaminated, how the community was affected, information about the chemical that was spilled into the river, and if we should be concerned about something similar happening in Arkansas. So let's begin where it all started on January 8th of 2014 in West Virginia at the property of Freedom Industries, owned by Gary Southerner. Thousands of gallons of chemical spilled into the Elk River, affecting the community that lived in the Charleston area. The chemical was from a coal processing storage tank from Freedom Industry. Gary Southerner was obviously to blame and was charged by the federal government. The neglect of maintenance of waste tanks goes against the EPA's Federal Clean Water Act and violates the Refusal Act. The government of West Virginia asked the federal government to involve the CDC to investigate the spill to research the harm it had done to the community. Researchers took samples for the water, soil, fish, and animals living around the Elk River for testing. Since they were unaware of the toxicity levels of the water from the spill, the government was still worried about the health and safety of its community and the environment around the Elk River. Before I get into more detail, let me show you where all of this took place. In case you are not familiar with the geography of West Virginia, here's a map that shows you the Elk River, highlighted in blue, and the communities that surround it, highlighted in red. The Elk River provides life through waters to all 9 counties you see on this map. The 9 counties include Greenup, Lawrence, Boyd, Wayne, Lincoln, Putnam, Cabell, and Huntington. Every single one of these communities were affected from this water pollution because it would not only affect their environment but also a put a threat of health of to its community. That is approximately 300,000 individuals that could be in possible danger from this chemical spill. Not only did it cause a threat to the health and the environment, it also put massive fear into this population. So this was not taken very lightly, and in fact was one of the largest water crises in the entire country. Let's discuss how the community was affected. Because everyone in Charleston area would be at risk of disease, the government, before knowing the results of any long-term lab tests or the danger that it would have on society, they instantly knew that they needed to send out a warning about the unsuitable water conditions. This was their proactive way to protect and prevent harm to anyone in the community. Although nothing is perfect, and they did not release the announcement to the public that the water was unsuitable for drinking for at least 9 hours after the chemical tank had already been in the water. That is 9 hours of people drinking and using the contaminated water without knowing what had happened earlier in the day. The whole population was at risk and in fear because they did not know the long term effects that it would have on their health. Another thing that took a role in this crisis was poor communication. Many people were not aware about the unsuitable water levels until days after the spill, which put the whole population at risk of disease and put the population in pure panic. Soon after the announcement, the hospital started flooding with patients with symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, headaches, diarrhea, rashes, and dizziness. In the next following days, around 1,900 people checked into the hospital with these symptoms, claiming it was from drinking the contaminated water. Testing showed multiple chemicals from the water, but one was the highest in concentration than the rest. This chemical was prevailed as 4-methylcyclohexane methanol, aka MCHM, which is a known chemical in the coal industry, but what they did not know is the long term effects that it could have on the health of the community. While looking up the information for this project, I ran into a short film that documented individuals in the community after the first week of the contamination. That it was posted in the West WV Water Crisis website. This video showed how terrified and desperate people in the community were for water. Many were scared not only for their health, but also worried about how and when they will get water for their families because there were no suitable drinking water anywhere nearby. People started traveling many hours away to neighboring states to obtain water for themselves and their family to live off of. The community outraged that their water was not protected more and completely shook that this is actually happening. Now let's take a look into this chemical, MCHM. After research was done, it was shown to be a non toxin and did not show any biomarkers that showed future damage to the liver or kidneys, and that was the main concern. The Toxicology Data Network did more experiments with MCHM to find out the long term result that it would have on the society. They did it with rats, guinea pigs, rabbits, etc. These results of experiments showed to only have epidermal effects except for a few outliers. Therefore, for most of the 1,900 patients that had mild to severe symptoms days after drinking from the water contamination was most likely due to another illness or mass hysteria. For those who are not familiar with this term, mass hysteria, it is a psychogenic case where the mind gets an idea of an illusion of a threat of illness, real or imaginary. Once the mind starts obsessing over this illness, the mind unknowingly tricks the body into believing that the illness is real, and the body starts producing real symptoms. So, therefore, they're not physically ill, caused a real symptoms. Although there were a few cases that people were hospitalized at this time, but in the articles that I read from my sources says that it could have been an underlying case not completely related to the toxin. As a result of this water crisis in 2014 in West Virginia, the individuals that were located in the Charleston area are now dealing with long term repercussions. Although there was no physical health effects, it did affect the community's mental state of mind. Even today, they are questioning themselves as a result. All of the 1,900 people that checked themselves into the hospital because of the water contamination had real life symptoms, but it was all because of mass hysteria, and that has completely disrupted the community. From here on out, they will question their understanding of themselves and question the government that is supposed to protect them. This community has lost trust in the government to give them adequate information about what is actually going on around their community. People will question their physical health from now on because of how the government dealt with this crisis in 2014. The reason behind discussing this information with you today is to know if we should be concerned about something similar to this happening in Arkansas. Since we have so many sources of water in our beautiful state, I would like to think that because of this public huge crisis, our government has set up a system that would prevent from this to ever happening again, so that we should not have to worry about something similar happening around our state. Personally, I think that we should care enough about our environment to make sure our government and community are always protected and our water stays clean. We can do this by enforcing the Safe Clean Water Act and be aware of the disposal waste products that the companies are disposing of. Although most of the sickness from West Virginia was due to mass hysteria, enforcing our laws about our environment should be taken very serious so that nothing like this would happen again. It put the whole community in West Virginia in fear and caused panic to more than half the state. As long as proper waste disposal is enforced and the respect for our community drinking water sources is maintained, we should not have a scare like this happening around our state. Something to be concerned with. We are supposed to put all of our trust in the government and the information that they are providing us. And we should not have to question if the information they are providing us is false. The government put upon mass hysteria into the whole population of West Virginia, and I hope they have learned from this mistake so that it will not happen and we should not be worried about this happening in Arkansas. So if there is anything to be concerned about, it would have to be the concern of mass hysteria reoccurring because of false information. Mass hysteria is a very serious situation and it should be prevented at all costs from the government. Here is a list of my sources that I used for information for this presentation. The last source is a video that I discussed earlier in my presentation that interviews people in the counties that were affected 1 week after the contamination. Thank you for listening today, and I would love to hear any feedback or if you have any questions about this water crisis that happened in January 8th in 2014 in West Virginia. Thank you.